Welcome back. We got some more Sage Wall stuff to go over. So let's just get into it because it's going to take a bit. Okay. So I guess I'll start here. Yesterday, we talked about how current flows go off of this rock in the Tizer Dolmen episode. Dolmen. Including down here. So my thought is current's going to like this way, but it's also running into the rock and splashing, and in so doing, it creates like a fanning out based on the rock. Based on its shape, it fans out and creates a resistance to current flowing directly into the rock, so it literally prevents erosion here to a boundary, which then that itself becomes sufficiently eroded past it that it begins to create a space from what it's projecting past it over here as well, where this current that's going atop this rock is traveling at a high enough velocity that it literally ramps over this region into the Tizer Dolmen and goes up it from above this blue line, and ultimately erodes up here. Not just going up it, like it's actually probably above it in terms of the depth of the water flow, significantly above it perhaps even. I do believe this is the flood that is causing this erosion, and that's one of the reasons this place is so relevant, because it really proves the flood happened. Like up here, this region is eroded up here as well, and it's eroded because what's going in between the two slabs is physically going around the corner up here with enough velocity and momentum that it actually etches into the rock and produces this like light region on both sides. So that's this one. Let's go to this one. So here's the top of Tizer Dolmen. On the left side is this fracture line, which we talked about in last video. I noticed it right here. That continues down into this arc. So this is the erosion spot here. So it's eroding around this corner, making it smooth and more just straight granite looking. And I noticed today when I was doing this that also this side continues over here to go literally to this point over here where this structure goes across, this etched line goes across. So this side goes up to that line and then bends here. I didn't draw it, it bends over there. And then this side goes up to that line and then goes up past it, which I didn't include in this image very much, but it's there. It even continues up there, it looks like. So between those two things, it really demonstrates that erosion happened here because of this. The coloration, the smoothness of it. Just water was flowing, especially through here, throughout the dolmen, but especially through the top, which is interesting. Not as much at the bottom. It makes me think maybe the higher water was flowing faster, it had less friction from the ground, maybe, to a point where it actually was a higher velocity, maybe. Not sure why the capstone doesn't have like the same thing going on like around here. Although looking at this, it does have some sort of like arcing structure there. Maybe over that way even, to about this boundary. Across from here, up this way to this boundary. So that's in there too. I distinctly, the question is how, if this isn't just like eroding, this is just like cracking, let's say, this structure up here, then why is it in line with this spaced apart thing down here? And if that's just a coincidence, what about this one? Why is this one in line with this like indented region that got etched even more? It really demonstrates erosion did this. Then there's this one I made where there's a nub here, nub there, the same nub. This is on a split rock where one current goes up this way and down this way and underneath it, and possibly goes over here as well, and maybe contributes to this like two paths here. For the green, another one goes past it to the side, down that way, and goes off in a sort of shallogram tooth-like shape over here, which you can kind of see there. Hopefully, you really need to be using a monitor and a computer to see a lot of what I'm talking about. Probably is what it is. And then above it, above the nub, is what I colored this pink one. And so there's three currents very much around the nub, and then the orange one physically looks like, I mean, I can't go inspect it. I guess I could theoretically, but I effectively can't. So but the orange one looks like it physically goes underneath the nub, as if it's like participating in eroding the chunk out and just like removing it from the surface and depositing it on the ground as like a pebble or whatever that size rock would be. So there's probably things of this nature on the ground that have been eroded away. I wouldn't be surprised. Also, I believe the split rock is itself a nub. So let's go to Tizer, Dolman, no commentary, I think it called it, something of that nature. Let's go to here. So here, as you're walking up to it, I'm gonna turn and look at the split rock. So there's the split rock. There's the split rock, two rocks split. There's what we're looking at now with the bend there. Also, this looks like it might like go above, like not just go down this way, but also continue more straight, like to over here, like an arc here, going up higher at the very top of my mouse, across this way to here, and then maybe like doing something of that nature due to this, like getting past some resistance, so it, or into resistance, so it bends bends the path of the current going across this way, goes up this way, and then just like pushes in and scoops out this little structure here. So that's probably going on, and then it continues even over there, it looks like, down there. Having almost like a nucleus and a ring around it. But then there is this nub on the split rock, which is interesting. But the split rock itself, I don't know if we see it from afar here. We talked about this in the other one, where it's very much like Devil's Marbles in Australia, like this one. Very much has a split of this nature in it, just like a rolling to the side and stabilizing in this V shape of a similar angle. Which maybe we saw for a second there. Like that, this angle. Very much like this. So my thought is this is a nub, and it eroded, and the reason I think it's a nub is because the nubs have, if we go back here, hopefully I can find a good image of them, probably in here. The nubs have, we can't see it here. There it is. There's the crack. Nubs have a crack down the middle, as if it's splitting in half. So imagine this is that huge splitting boulder, and it split, and it also separated from some bulk material. Over here, there's a divide there. I'm not sure if it looks like a crack there, but it does look more like a crack is happening here. Here we can kind of see that crack more so. So it's to me, that really indicates they're one and the same, just different fractal scales, which is cool. Okay, I don't want to get too caught up on stuff I already talked about. I just kind of introduction, that stuff. Go back to Sage Wall. Also, this is relevant. Here's Sage Wall. Here's Bighorn Mountain. This is a magnetic anomaly map of North America, Western North America, Western United States, really. But Bighorn Mountain has a either ringed or spiral structure around it. It kind of spirals out, honestly, from here. If we go like over this way and up this way and over here and up this way, it has definitely an internal spiral, but then like it kind of joins over here. So maybe this spiral actually goes out that way, where an outer boundary also exists, and this is maybe like a current flow path to go in that compressed at the Bighorn Mountains and formed it. I never really noticed that this has this arc here that looks like it's feeding in. So this is part of Sage Wall. It's literally at the boundary of this system. I mean, another indicator that it's geological, because like, why would it be there at the boundary of this huge system? Just the only way to maintain the interpretation that it's man-made is to call this a coincidence, or to say that they had a reason. But the thing is, they wouldn't have had a reason, because this wasn't the magnetic anomaly map of the Earth before the Earth expanded. This is after the Earth expanded. This is the outcome of current flows that were flowing while the Earth was expanding and causing it to expand. So they wouldn't even have like built it with any relationship to the magnetic anomaly map, because it didn't exist. For sure didn't exist. If it was a man-made megalith, this magnetic anomaly map was not a driving factor in them choosing the location. So it has to be a coincidence, just like the other things have to be a coincidence to maintain the interpretation of it being man-made in view of this evidence that I'm talking about. Let's see what this is. Here's that bending path where it physically bends, indicating, again, current flows, where the paths aren't actually continuous, which currents can do, bending around a corner and kind of skipping. Then I found this one today. This is from the Humbug Spires. Sorry to humbug everyone. Bah humbug. Y'all, this ain't no man-made wall. That ain't no man-made wall. Bah humbug. Spires. So here, over here. Relatively circular. Next to it, relatively circular. Next to it, relatively circular. This one's sort of like half circle divided. Something maybe related to this. Maybe going down there and up this way and over there. Another something of the similar nature there. This one, interestingly, has a subsequent boundary out here. And then two more at like a lower, deeper in the rock. So it's doing it again, and it's doing it in a patterned way, like this. Patterned, like boom, like especially here. Almost looks like a torso, like the top two, bottom two in this, minus these things, but I mean, not to call it a torso, but it just has a structure that's more regular than would be expected, I would say. I think this is a strong, like, starting point, at least for nubs, that they are in a line, in another line, 4 of them that way, really. 6 or 7 of them in a pattern. But clearly this is not man-made. I mean, they're not protruding as much. There's certainly differences. They're not as eroded. Surrounding is not eroded away to create like a separated nucleus. However, it's nearby in Montana, and it's clearly natural. That's another one. So here's the nubs, here's the currents I talked about in the last one, which I was gonna try to find a picture that I could really do this with better and just redo it for a larger area. I just didn't feel like it, honestly. I've been like, I probably woke up at 8 o'clock after recording last episode until like 1 something, and then watching it, like turning it on and watching it, and like not falling asleep till it was over. And then waking up at like 8 a.m. and immediately back at it, looking into stuff, getting reasonable responses like, well, you got any nubs? You want to say the nubs are natural? You got any examples to point out? So I looked around. I just started looking around, and that last one was the best one I could find. This was the best I could find. Start watching YouTube videos, but I did find pretty good evidence. So let's keep going. Here's that one again. This one again. This one again. Okay, that's all the things I made. So now let's go to today's screenshots from Boulder Batholith. So I started Boulder Batholith. I'll try to link all these videos. I guess I can link them all. I just gotta search by the name again and find them. This is from this video. This is Boulder Batholith, which is where Sage Wall is. So I figured that was a good place to look. We see kind of like a path here that wraps around, goes down this way. And then there's this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing. Like, they're not protruding nubs that are substantial, but they're certainly forming. Pardon me, ma'am. This one as well, but they're not in line, but these are. So I thought this was pretty good, but it's obviously, it's not like the distinct and just like nubs that are on the other one. It's not. Oh, I was trying to go back to that, whatever. There's another angle, another shot of it. No, her hand was on one as well. I forgot that one too. Her hand was on one, which maybe is in line this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, there's a bunch in lines. These even maybe in a line that way. These in a line. That maybe in a relative line. Certainly relationships to what we're talking about. Maybe it's class, so it's maybe not the best example. But then I started watching rock climbing videos. I was like, alright, rock climbers are going to show like good handholds and things. Maybe they'll be showing nubs. So I started looking around. I just took this picture. It's got little features. They're not like distinctly nubs, but something going on there. Just over the whole of the wall, some similar features. But this one down here, so this is another one that's just like subtly eroded, but it's still forming relatively circular feature there. This one's at the edge of the rock, so it's a little elongated and not the best picture, but I took it because it had something, like, it was something. This one, it's hard to, like, persuade that these are nubs, but this one looks kind of like a nub. This one looks questionable. It may just be from all the... Essentially, because the rock climbers use this powder to climb to get a better grip, they use the same grip holds enough where it's visible on this wall. And then down here, so there's something down there that they seem to do also. And then there. I figured that was pretty in a line. So maybe it applies, I don't know. Took that picture. Now we're at Lumpy Ridge, Estes Park, going to Gem Lake, which I watched a couple videos of, and I was like, I found somewhere. I freaking found somewhere useful enough to reference. We can see potholes, little potholes in the rock, which is at Sage Wall, and is one of the things that, like, indicate a possible man-made aspect, but they're all over the place here. And this is in the Rockies in Colorado. I think it's in Rocky Mountain National Park even somewhere, I believe. Some more, a couple pothole things there. Nothing nub-like from here, but everything else. Some pothole there. Potholes there. Let's just keep going. This is another place we'll probably find. I definitely got more images from there, but I guess it's entitled later in the alphabet. This is another place I found. Bodmin Moor in, I believe, England, which naturally formed like this. So let's just go through these pictures. I think I was just taking pictures. I don't see anything that pops out completely. Just took pictures. This was cool. This was shallogram like. As we go forward, it's got 3 protruding segments, which is shallogram like. If we go to this one on this side right here, like this. Kind of like that. So let's keep going. Now we see it narrowing. And then we see it really narrow to like chakra. This chakra even has like 1, 2 in the back. Like these are relatively equal here, and this protrudes a bit more, where this one's a little more flattened. It's possible, if these are chakras, which they probably are, that one's positive, one is negative, and there's something of that nature to chakras that it tends to happen that I'm not aware of. And then here's the other lobe. Quite the incredible place. This one even looks like it has a 3rd chamber over there. So like one chamber, and then a small one, and then a large one on this side. I wonder if over here there's indications of some etching this way. I don't see anything. Like another lobe that would have formed this way, but just didn't. I'm not sure which one this is. Maybe this close side. It's got a bunch of trees there. That's probably the close side then. Or this side is probably this close side here. So the other side, this side, is the one. Okay, there it is. One chamber, and then another chamber. So now we see it, which shalograms do, just like the one I just showed. With like multiple chambers. Okay, let's keep going. Wait, just check that out. Maybe there's something over here to this. I don't know. I'm sure that there's definitely like men participating in the outcome of what this looks like. Like this didn't happen naturally, of course. This maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. Back to Gem Lake and Lumpy Ridge Loop. So this one I thought looked kind of like a nub, so I took a picture right there. This is really cool. I'm not sure if there's not any more pictures of that. There it is. I guess that's Cyclops Rock. Cyclops Rock. So we can really see right here like a drainage that looks like it kind of influences down here. I don't know what happened here exactly, but it looks like current came from way over there and like in a jet stream type thing that hit the back of this rock and just drilled through it and drained down and etched over here. Very cool. Very cool. Now we're seeing more blocky stuff like at Sage Wall. So this one's really more about the wall and these things. This is a good example. This thing with a chakra type thing between it. This one coupled to that one with a chakra type thing between it. So maybe something of that nature happens. More of them. Just a bunch of them. Bunch of them. So looking down at the back towards the Cyclops Rock. I think it might be that one in the distance. Not sure which angle the opening is facing. I don't know. Maybe that one. Again, the rock is like slabbed. Interesting, whatever's going on there. Very interesting there. It's kind of like a Lycan Gang ring. Something of that nature going on there. More slabs. More slabs. These are huge. No, like, this is a big tree. These are huge. This is not man-made. This is geological. Going up this interesting thing with a bunch of little steps in it. A little back and forth there. Switchback going on. That's cool. Like current went into pressure, like it was into back pressure. It's trying to flow forward, but what's in front of it was lagged because it was trying to flow forward and something else was in front of it, and ultimately like it pressure behind it was pushing, but there was pressure in front, so it caused some of the water perhaps to go down be underneath the pressure and flow, but with like the current flowing down this causing a pressure, so it caused a current to go this way and then over here this way and do like a switchback thing. I would imagine that's what happened there, or it's like post flood etching, but I don't think that kind of thing would have happened since then. That's very anomalous. Now we're at the lake. Lots of layering. Lots of layering. This is from Lemnos in Greece because, again, I was trying to look for nubs. And I figured this was a good place to look because I feel like it's got a lot of like blocky and rounded things. That this has some nubs, some nubs on the ground. Like there's certainly nubs here. Whether or not they're sufficient to like rebut the argument that the nubs at Sage Wall are natural or man-made, and by like here's some natural nubs, whether or not that's sufficient, probably not in and of itself, but it's certainly supplemental evidence that the nubs can form geologically. This is a different material. I tried to get granite. I was really looking for granite. It's hard to find like good evidence of features on the rock like on demand, I guess, like on spontaneous. You know what? I need to find some nubs. Where do I look? How about Montana geology? Montana hike. Like, I don't know what, and then just start watching, like, I just gotta get lucky and someone happens to record, like, a distinct nubs. Or I find the right place. And that's what I really liked about the Gem Lake. So now we're at Granite Peak, which I just took a picture of real quick because I thought it was interesting. I didn't think it was related particularly, besides granite and being nearby, but I don't think it experienced quite the same flows. Just different flows, different pressures, different ways in which it etched the rock. So here's a couple of scoop marks at Gem Lake, like the scoop marks at Sage Wall, at Tizer Dolmen. There's scoop marks. Let's maybe find those here. I think like this one. And this one's prettier maybe, but it's ultimately, especially this one, of this nature. And this one is maybe debatable from this image. I'm not sure if I got other images, but this one's pretty clear cut that it's related to in process. More potholes. This is at Gem Lake. Hiking there is a pretty much Sage Wall is there, just in the rock. Like it's not in the mountain. It's not just like hanging out as an individual wall, but it has all of the signs of the same process occurring here that occurred there that really drive home this is not man-made, because I'm not sure if I could honestly found a picture of large, like zoomed out to see it in it's more like overall setting. So I guess it could be a wall by itself and not like more natural looking otherwise. I'd have to find some more pictures, but this is another wall that is well known, hiked all the time, like it's in a national park, I'm pretty sure. Let's find it. Let's find Gem Lake. Possibly. There it is. It's over here. I don't know if it's in a national park, but it's over here. Gem Lake is over there. Maybe click this real quick. See what we can find this way. So cool. So I feel like the water came through this channel and went into this rock. Very cool. Very cool. Bonjour. Chipmunks are in all the videos. And they're very friendly because they're getting fed all the time, probably. They're like walking up to everyone. I'm like, I remember chipmunks when I was out in that area. So cool. So cool. Okay, let's go back to my pictures so I don't feel like sorry guys, I'm not gonna reference your. Just because I scrolled through that, I'm not gonna like go through and find all the like data on whose images those were. This is cool. It's got lots of little fractures in this segment right here, like up to this fracture, and then up here is much more bulky, blocky layers. I don't see really nubs here. Maybe that's a nub. Maybe that's a nub. Maybe a nub over there. They're not as pronounced, maybe there, as Sage Wall. That's the thing with Sage Wall, is it really is, in my interpretation, like a epicenter of where currents are colliding. Like if we go to this, when Western North America, particularly in Canada and Alaska, all of this material was essentially accreted onto North America. And that closed the physical current path for ocean water. But that current, it wasn't like, all right, I'll go another way. Oh, don't worry, I'll go over here. I'll go that way. It was like, I'm still going this way. I don't stop. And just picked up velocity because the channel narrowed. So it went extremely intensely through here as this channel narrowed. This is obviously not how it happened, like in terms of a huge block. It's much more like components at a time, some blocks at a time, like major regions at a time, but not all at once. But how else do I do this except for maybe like cut little pieces and make them move in, like whatever. Point being, the current goes this way, wraps around in resistance of this. So maybe if we go to, hopefully I can find it quickly. Where would it be? Say here. Not here. Here's one thing going on with the hand of God here. Not the best picture to bring up because it's not really catching what I'm looking for, but it's cool, so why not? Obviously not in Gujarat, not Pacific. Not in Himalayas. Where could I have put it? I don't think it's here. Oh my god. So many files. It's like a tightly packed thing that's just trying to explode from all this stuff in there. It's hard to manage. Maybe North America. Here we go. Here we go. This is the one I'm looking for. So we got this current coming up from through Mexico and running into that current coming from the closing of the channel. And they interact where this one goes and wraps around in this resistance of this current going up here. It wraps around, etches into the earth, and physically carves sufficiently into it so that lava can erupt through as the Columbian River basalt, because radiometric dating is not actually valid in terms of absolute ages. It works for relative ages within a given method, but not even across methods like carbon dating and like other methods. Like they're all they all need calibrated with one another and recognized to be a much shorter time frame, so that like when the Missoula flood was happening, which was like 10,000 years, 12,000, something like Younger Dryas-ish, so was the Columbian River basalt erupting. So when these collide, they specifically, like this one doesn't just stop here, it also goes over this way, through this way, and then it runs into pressure over here, not just from this, but like a current over here, larger scale, that's holding this boundary, and currents are like pushing into, but there's pressure from another system centered on Hudson Bay, like this one, that's holding this space so that things going to the east can't get in as easily, the waters. So it effectively, the Missoula flood, the ocean current causing it, that's flowing underneath glaciers as well, because it was freezing. I guess I'm just gonna trust people on the glacier interpretation and say it's okay, and it's not like high amounts of water being confused for glaciers. I'm fairly certain the glacier interpretation is valid, so there's definitely glaciers involved, but the water is flowing this way underneath the glaciers, at least. I'm not sure if there's glaciers really in the ocean between as it's closing, but once it closes, it's probably also forming like a surface hard ice layer that the water is caused to go under, which pinches it as well, so it has even that much more velocity. As its like channel narrows, the velocity increases, so it really etches and gets through this way, and then vibrates over here, goes down here, and does other things, like goes like this way and other stuff as well, but essentially it goes across. And Sage Wall is right here, so like right at the end of where this snakehead that I've drawn as a snakehead before, and maybe not in this one so much, and this top snake, where this one goes to is where Sage Wall is. So there's that current with a boundary there. There's the magnetic anomaly map around Bighorn Mountain with a boundary there, holding a boundary, and then there's this high velocity current just going through the region from the Missoula flood, from Flathead Reservation over here, this way, just cutting through. And over here, going like around this, and then just cutting through here, pretty much. Okay, so that's going on over at Sage Wall. So it's just more, it's more pronounced than here, but like where we're looking at, that's actually pinpointed on that map too. Gem Lake is over here, so it's literally in the current, because this current goes over here to Gem Lake, so it's also in the current. So that kind of makes sense. That maybe even indicates that like there's a higher probability to find similar features along like this path anywhere that like granite is being shaped by the water, etched, eroded. Okay, so that's interesting there. More of just layers with like angled cracks across the layers, up and down as well. He's going up to the top here, so I was just taking pictures as he went. This was interesting. It just looks like a path. At where he's going looks like a path water was like draining intensely over. Like it ran into the mountain, went up over top the mountain and down, and drained like certain paths. Like this looks like a path that it especially trained and etched. I don't know if the pictures I took are going to capture it fully, but Little sharp point there. Let's keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Interesting stuff going on there. Another pothole type thing. Pothole. Lots of potholes here, and interesting shaped potholes too. Behind him. What's up, man? I try not to get people in, but this picture was too good. It was just too good. Like, what is happening right there? Incredible. That's so incredible. Oh my god. Pothole with a little chakra type of divide between two of them. Bunch of pothole-ish looking things, slash scoops, like running into resistance sideways and making it more scoop-like maybe than downward, or it becomes more like a pothole maybe. More potholes, more like this chakra type thing, even a divide in the chakra, little crack. So there's probably an energetic connection between these potholes as they were forming. Like whatever's the eddy here and the eddy here were like exchanging between one another. Let me go back here. This probably, let's just hit replay, whatever. Sorry that it's boring that I listen to the same music over and over. I'm just trying to not feel like I have to mute all the time. And my poor father. So this I thought was interesting because we can see here when he's having like a coughing fit, to finish that sentence, from a COPD. But this continues, but it's much more subtle down here on this side at least. This one looks more pronounced than here, but this side's subtle right there. So there's definitely a relationship between this and the etchings there. Another etching there. Pothole. I believe there's a string of, like, there's a pothole. As we follow this, I think I took more pictures. There's going to be a pothole in this. Like, there's a current flow, and then that current, here it is. Not just one, like a string of them. Very cool. That's the camera or his hat or something. Something going on there. That's pretty cool. A little beep. That looks shallogram-like. Like currents coming out, but at this boundary, it's just currents coming out of this stretch and out of this stretch, but not right here. Instead, right here, the current out of this stretch is physically pushing material into the other one, like this, like two currents that then between them compress a mound that this is, and does it again over there maybe. That's what that looks like to me. Or maybe not compress a mound, but just protect a mound. I don't know. I feel like compress, though, maybe. Compress would imply that the water was flowing as this rock was forming, before it was, like, fully formed to a point where it's, like, cold and stable, and like it is now. Like, in a state like it is now, and then the water flowed, versus, like, still being a little more fresh, so it's more able to like influence it, so it has something like that. I'm not one of those two options really. It's either it eroded after the fact and just didn't erode this portion, or it eroded as it was forming in part, and this portion was formed in the erosion and exemplifies it. Unclear. This, oh my god, right here, little waves, shallogram waves, which is a sign of current flow, just like that, coming out of certain points. And then between it, it kind of doesn't erode as much, so it has like a protruding chunk, because it's not like a fully balanced flow across the entire, underneath this slab, across the entire plane. It's actually like pixelated, so certain points have more flow, which then erodes further than the points that don't get eroded as much, or vice versa. It's like trying to get under pressure, trying to get under the slab, and then eroding further in the pass that it's able to, like at the center there, in the same but opposite way. Unclear. It might be that one because of the surrounding here. This looks like it was like trying to get in, and in the meantime eroding around it, kind of like the Tizer Dolmen, and creating just like a difference in the color. More pothole things around. Just bunch of potholes. Pothole. Bunch of potholes. Really, really demonstrates, at least those. The only thing that is even like debatable, in my opinion, is the nubs, and even that is like not really debatable because of the current flows around them. Like if you look at nubs, like this one, let me go back, Sage Ball, these are there. These are in the rock. Like here's a hexagon. All of these are in the rock with some like openness for that, the fact that it's a rough draft. But they're there. If we go to like megalith nubs, like I don't see, maybe in like a subtle way, like I guess in a subtle way, maybe there's some possibility, like around it, there's some coloration difference like there, but it's really not, like that's just not that's not there around the nubs. So without someone really showing nubs inducing surrounding effects, like I don't think it's persuasive. That needs to be explained by the man-made interpretation. It is not gonna be, because that's not what's happening. But it sheds light on this. Like they're doing this effectively for the same reason. Like they create focal points that spiral, not water, but ether, possibly air, but probably ether. Cause spirals around it that have a purpose. I don't know why exactly, but like it's definitely related. They're not just there for like manufacturing process that creates nubs. Like that's not what's happening. They're not there for because they weren't removed. Like like making the rocks, melting and forming them in some kind of molding way, and the mold has these things that they just don't bother to remove, and that's just like in the walls now. Like no, they are there for a purpose, and that purpose is interaction with probably the ether, What exactly, to what end, I don't know. Interesting, like over here it has like a ring around it. This really does have like a almost like a block under it, a block beside it. Something up and something over between this way. In the color, that's interesting. It's still not doing the same thing, but it's like if we closely inspect in those kinds of ways, there may be indicators to what they're doing, like what effects they have, so that we can be like, oh, that's what they're doing. But it's really not distinct whatsoever. Wherever, again, where here, it's visible. We can see, like, current flows there, around here, this, that. Like, I talked about this in the last one, so I'm just not gonna elaborate any further. So if you're listening to this and think that's all the information I have to say on the matter, then you're just not, like, doing your due diligence and listening to what I have to say. If you're choosing to deny what I'm saying without listening to me, like, that's not due diligence. It's just not. That's my life, though. No one really bothers to hear me out because I literally counter like everything. Like, plate tectonics is false. So most people don't know the Earth expanded. Already, my audience of people that, like, when I say that, greatly dwindles, like, without them becoming incredulous. Plus, like, the people that are open to it are, like, there's still people who are open to it that don't know, but that number is probably pretty small. And throw on top of that, the Big Bang didn't happen, general relativity is false, quantum mechanics is false, the flood happened. I mean, how many people am I resonating with with those features of the nature of reality when I say them? And others, like ammonites, are not fossils. Who's left? Thanks, guys that are left, and gals. Thanks for hanging out. But people are actually appreciate what I'm saying. They know what I'm saying. But people who just casually are coming upon my work and, like, spamming on Twitter, and they're like, what is this dude fucking arguing? He disagrees with me, like, and, like, let me disprove it real quickly so I can move on and feel like I know what I'm talking about still, in spite of this person saying otherwise. Like, it's just not the same. I don't know if that sentence even made sense anymore. Where was I in these? I guess here. Another pothole thing, two pothole things. This one even looks to have like a smaller and larger segment, like right there, a little smaller, like a shallogram. I really think it's doing the same thing. It's just doing it into harder rocks, so it's not getting in as much. Like, if it was able to, it could create, like, go through. This one's interesting because we see this. It's almost like this right here. You can just lift it up, and this layer is this in here, and this eroded down to this layer, but then it reached where the water is flowing underneath here, and, like, became one with it, so it didn't erode further. I think that's really interesting and telling, like, that it has this really defined, like, pothole that just is very thin and, like, immediately stops at this layer is telling. This is cool. This kind of makes me think of it being a little more liquidy, malleable, like fluid. It looks like it was fluid when things were happening around it. So that the water, like, in some way reshaped it, participated in shaping it, or maybe it's just that the water didn't shaped it, it shaped it to look fluid. I don't think that's what's happened there, but I guess that's a possibility. It looks like this chunk is connected through almost like to this chunk through some sort of chakra, basically. By the way, this connects here. That's kind of interesting. Just a thought. Don't hold every word I say as needing to be absolute truth or in order to continue to listen to me, because that's ridiculous. I know I am arrogantly proposing, let's say, behaving as if I am Mr. Know-It-All, but I do know the theory of everything. Like, people don't know that. I did find the theory of everything in 2014. That's a long time ago at this point. Imagine, like, spending every day, at least 6 years of it, just sitting at a computer, doing stuff like this, looking at stuff. Like, at some point, I've learned a lot of shit, dudes. Sure, it's not the same thing as people who are, like... I look at it as I'm literally self-taught. You know, there's self-taught musicians, and there's, like, educated musicians through, like, a more traditional manner, if you will. Like, both have the capacity to be experts in their field of music. Like, no one's like, did you go to music school? Why am I listening to your music? If it's good, it's good. And guess what? I'm fucking bomb diggity. Boom, boom, boom. The ding, ding, ding bingos going on in this hood. It ain't paralleled. Part of my arrogance. Hugs. Ding, ding, ding. Looked like water flowed through here. And through here, of course. That's cool. Little something there. This is cool. It also kind of gets thinner. Like, this one's thick. This one's a little thinner. This one's thinner still. And then a tiny thin layer at the bottom, as well as getting more, like, shorter. Oh, interesting. Well, looks almost like a Mandalorian. This is the way. This is the way. Big old pothole there. Possibly ammonite like. Like if this chunk, I need one that shows the cross section like this, the way this is, but a chunk kind of like the one I first started with, like this, but having that, like, maybe if I just go to 353 here, this one I know has it, so maybe let's just go there. There it is. Going inward. That's what I'm specifically feeling like interesting when I look at this right here. It looks like it indents there, and like has a protruding region up top and bottom. Maybe, I mean, kind of like this. I don't think I have another picture of that, but some more potholes. Some other stuff. Other stuff. Cool stuff, but pothole looks like a That might be a protruding nub type thing. That looks kind of like a nub. Nub, maybe, to a degree. Like, they're probably around. They're just more flat. Like the one I started with, this place, Humbug Spires. More like that. More potholes. This was cool. Whatever. Like, it's things like this that make me feel like it was fluid, to a degree at least, so that the water could participate in shaping it. This looks almost like a core. Like it had some kind of core? I don't know. Like a bone. That reminds me of the things I see in Diamond Miner Ivins videos that he calls coral. Another place that doesn't really have any necessarily Sage Wall related stuff. I mean, it's near, let's see, Glendive, Montana. Let's see, Glendive. It's in Montana, so I say it's near. It's near. It's all the way over here. Alright, so it's definitely not, like, related to this current flow going this way, where Gem Lake is. This one looks actually more related to this current flow that makes this, like, horn. It's, like, right at the boundary. I don't know how close to actual... It must be over here or something, where this guy's at. Very cool, though. Looks like this was deposited by the Hudson Bay's eddy based on its position, and probably other currents coming out of here, possibly related to the current like going across that way, out this way, I don't know, something out that way participating too, so it might have some stuff from over here. I haven't like looked at the literature at these places to get a better idea of what's going on yet. I did try to look at Boulder, Batholith, where Sage Mountain is, for some literature. I didn't find anything nub related, so I just moved on because that's what I was looking for, so I didn't really look at it. So I really haven't looked at any. Okay, let's just keep going, but this is just cool. This place, though, has things like I've seen in Wyoming. Here, where is it? Shallograms, related rocks from Myron Cook's video again. This place, it has things like this, which I thought was interesting. Let's find them, compare. Just, it looks like a painting, kind of like a dirty painting. Down here, I don't know. Like those, but over here. There they are. There they are. I don't see this better. There weren't any really better pictures. But my guess is it's very closely related to this process. It's even like on the top of a similar structure. Is kind of what I'm thinking. Molten volcanic rock, Shonkonites, Montana, Table Mountain. Table Mountain is near Sage Mountain. So yeah, here's Sage Mountain's over here somewhere. Table Mountain down here. So over here is where that image was from. Maybe some others. It's pretty cool. Back to Gem Lake. There's some chipmunks in here. I don't know if I took any more pictures but there were 2 chipmunks playing over here. Like ran up to him. He was sitting here. They like literally goes like right up next to him. He even goes like this, like talking. He goes does like an arm wave. It doesn't even care. Like, dude, he almost slapped you, chipmunk. And then I looked around. This was a lecture-ish thing from the University of Montana. Western Roadside Geology, Zoom presentation by Dr. Rob Thomas. So I mostly just took pictures. I didn't really listen to it. I just literally scrolled to the next slide and decided if I wanted to take a picture. Look at that equator. Holy shit. Dude. I love when I'm just right as fuck, dudes. Just high fives. High five? No? No one? Oh. Okay. Oh my god. Incredible. Whew. You gotta see my other videos, I guess. Earth's Undercurrents. Where, particularly based on the magnetic anomaly map, where current, I said, went along the equator at some point. That's essentially my interpretation. That's what it's been. Is the current went from the mantle puncture hole over here and then along the equator this way over here, which then the Earth expanded so it wasn't yet separated, went over here and then over that way. Equator. Boom, headshot. Guys, can I just be like... oh my god, dude. It's too good. It's too good. It just is what it is. That's the fact of the matter. It is what it is. It's not what it isn't. It is what it is. And what it is a Earth that expanded, not plate tectonics, a infinite eternal universe, not Big Bang, classical mechanics, not general relativity or quantum mechanics. The flood happened. It is what it is. Ammonites are not fossils. It is what it is. What do you want from me? Facts of the matter, dudes. Sorry if it's not established in the world yet. Like, I can... Like, if I... Like... I'm holding this shallogram. Like... And I put it down. And I pick up a shallogram. Do you know? Do you know that there's a shallogram in my hand? You saw there was one, but is there one now? You don't know? I know. Now you know. I'm showing you. Same thing's happening. I'm like, see? Check it out. People are like, get that away from me. I don't want to know what's going on in this world. I'd rather just stay the course. Stay the course. Just block him out. Okay, we're good now. We're just gonna talk like he didn't say anything. Perfect. Oh my god. Just checking this out. Let's just kind of cut through these. Since I didn't watch it. I didn't know what to make of this. I looked at it, I was like, I'm not listening, so I'm not sure what this is, with the radius around it. Yellowstone hotspot 16.5 million years ago. I guess that's like the volcanic region of influence. I don't know. There's the hotspots. Makes me think of nubs in a line. Okay, we got to Red Rock Coulee. Let's skip this. Although, the right around Cooley, like, again, spheres are geological. Just like arrowheads. Not all of them. Not all arrowheads. Alright, but we can't just say every arrowhead we find is an arrowhead and isn't geological in origin. Untouched by man until you picked it up and said an arrowhead. Can't say that. Gotta look close enough to determine the fact of the matter. Like the whole Clovis culture didn't exist. It's like bits off of things like this that ended up shaped like arrows by the processes. That someone comes along and sees an arrow, it looks like an arrow, it's an arrow, and labels, they don't know what the, like, they don't know the earth expanded, they didn't discover the theory of everything, unfortunately. That's a very important aspect of it. Like, lots of details. They look at it. The consensus is they're arrowheads. Like, people have accepted it. There's not resistance, so it just it's going with the flow. To call it an arrowhead, to call it not an arrowhead, is resistance trying to push the other way. Like, nah, we gotta go that way, dudes. You guys realize we're going into La La Land here? I know I sound like I am, but I'm in the, what's it called? Like the land of substance. I ain't standing on no voids. I stand on truth, bruh. That's what I'm about. What you ain't heard? That's because people won't tell you. They hide that I even exist. They don't even want to acknowledge there's a researcher out here killing it because it just throws shade on them. I literally don't get acknowledged by like anyone. It's kind of sad. Very little, and when I do, it's not the same. It's not the same as people who get like thousands of followers, hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of followers. Those people, sir, yes, sir, anything you need. Me, it's like, dude, I ain't got time for you. What, you got 80 followers? What, you got 300 subscribers? You're irrelevant. Your opinion doesn't matter. Even if you have something to say, no one's listening, so you probably don't have something to say. That's how I'm going to do this. Based on circumstantial evidence, I'm going to conclude things that don't actually fit reality, but that's easier than actually bothering to look at the mountain of evidence you've established carefully, meticulously, and with nuanced detail, where it's good luck refuting what I've concluded across many of my conclusions. Like, at this point, I'm just rewriting science and more. Unless the only way it's not the case is, and even then, maybe, is that you guys are all in on it. That's really it. Either you guys are all in on it, or I'm rewriting science. So are you in on it? You know better than I do if you're in on some elaborate scheme to trick me into thinking I'm rewriting science. I don't know. I'm not allowed to know. I gotta make a fool of myself if that's the case. I guess that's what's happening. But these are very closely related to my spheres video. My spheres video just shows they're geological. Just by looking at enough spheres, it's like, alright, they're geological. These aren't from some ancient civilization. Sure, they're from the flood, so effectively they are God-made. They're supernatural in some way. If you want to call them like man-made, they're God-made because according to, what scripture says, like, someone caused the flood. It wasn't like the earth was like, let's expand today. No, the earth was like, what are you doing to me, man? Like popcorn, brah. Earth became like a kernel of popcorn. Expanded to a new radius. And flooded the planet. Cause that guy dude was like, I'm done with this shit. What you motherfuckers doing over there? This ain't cool sleeping with those children. What? You think cause they're adults? You know better, motherfucker. Flood. It's not complicated, dudes. It's like epitome of rape when you got a parent civilization of effectively what was known as gods giving birth to a human child civilization of which is like humans still like that's they're all like one, but they're like not in it's literally like a parent child, but not like 15-year-old and 80-year-old, like they're still humans. There's the gap between is so ridiculous that it's time, Flood. Done. You knew better. Don't give me that shit where you like, oh, you killed all these people. You flooded the planet. You're the worst. Don't give me that shit. You shouldn't have fucking thought about that before you fucking that child, bruh. That's it. That's how it goes. That's what happened. Let's keep going. Because this right here, this is the first time I've seen at Red Rock Coulee. Two of them conjoin with like a flat connection point. Really reminds me of Trovance. Like the connection here, rounded over here. Like a dumbbell shape. Something. Scrotum. Sorry. Alright, that's the end of this. This also is relatively like nubs. Alright, maybe real quick. Speaking of nubs, how far are we at? Okay. Real quick, let's just see if we can find any current flows around these nubs. Like this one's a little more rough, so maybe it will distinguish things a little better. I still don't see a damn thing though. Like these were worked. Maybe a little something there. Around that one. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some degree of subtle evidence if it's ether. Like, it's maybe has some effect over time. But it's still not of the nature of the other one. This looks kind of interesting, like it loops underneath it. Like that definitely is not really related to the nub's existence. There's something going up there. Blocky looking thing, but not really radiating from it or anything. Like, it's just not the same. They're just not the same. I mean, they're probably effectively the same. That one was naturally formed and the other was a application of nature in building by understanding like their purpose and their reason, the benefits to doing that versus not putting nubs. Like I'm fairly certain they're extremely relevant. Like people should be aware of them for sure. They're not just like nubs from the manufacturing process, which is kind of boring. Kind of boring. Alright, like if that were to be the case, like, really? All that mystery for some manufacturing, like, little piece of extra stuff? That's it? Like, that's lame. But if they're causing ether flows around them to flow in certain ways and encouraging an outcome, that is like beneficial to humanity or whoever's around these things. Pretty fucking cool, dudes. Pretty cool. Alright, without further ado, I made it through. I'll see you. Triple rhyme. That's not random. It's gotta be man-made, that triple rhyme.